Welcome to another episode of Creating Freedom. I'm your host, Sean Gray. With me, as always, my co-host, Sean Winters. And today we wanted to talk about something that we see every day and so many people going through life feeling stuck. So if you feel stuck, this is a good video for you. We're going to keep it nice and short. And our whole goal is to help you create personal freedom, financial freedom, social freedom, every type of freedom in your life. So what we wanted to talk about today, because again, we're seeing people feeling stuck, and some of the things that they're saying to themselves are, or just kind of going along with the motions and going along with the programs that they're subconsciously running, and they're wondering why they're not getting the results they want in life, for one, or two, they look at everything through kind of a blue colored lens, like, yeah, that's cool, but here's why it won't work. Or, yeah, that sounds great, but, here's why it's not going to work for me, right? And they kind of are looking at life and opportunities through a lens colored blue that holds them back from experiencing freedom and experiencing more opportunities. So there's a solution to that. And Sean, we talk about this all the time, and we were talking about it earlier today, so that's why we decided to hop on. But it's this idea of breaking those patterns that we subconsciously have. So, Sean, what does it mean to break a pattern? What is a pattern, and how does somebody do that?
Yeah. And just reiterating what you said, I think we all are searching for freedom, right? And if we're going to get that for our lives, we cannot allow our current patterns, our current programming, our current habits, whatever you want to call them, thought habits, our physical habits, all these things, we cannot let those run our lives. We have to actually break those patterns. So that's something that Sean and I have been thinking about and trying to figure out the right ways to go about that, right? And because if we're not able to break our thought patterns of why something can work versus how can we do it versus actually saying like what most people say, and you're probably one of them, is we have these self-limiting beliefs of why something can't work. And if you hear yourself say that out loud, or you hear somebody else around you say that out loud, that's an identifier right there that these people are operating in a pattern, a thought pattern of why things can't work in their lives. And it's really, really important to throw a wrench and break that pattern. So that's what we're here to talk about today. I'd be curious, Sean, what do you think are a few ways that you can actually break those patterns?
Yeah, well, one thing that I thought of right when you were talking about that was Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Robert Kiyosaki, he's been a great mentor to me, and I've learned a ton from him. And one of the things that he talks about is the biggest difference between the rich and the poor is the way they think and the way they handle their fear, right? The left side of the quadrant, the employee, self-employed mindset, it's nothing wrong with being an employer, being self-employed, but there's a mindset that comes with it versus being a business owner and investor. And the mindset that comes with it is, I can't afford it, right? And Kiyosaki's whole thing is give your mind the right problem to solve. Our minds are like Google, like they'll spit out what you give it. So you have to give it the right thing. So his thing is, instead of I can't afford it, how can I afford it? And just let your subconscious go to work on that. Right? But we just react so instantly. And a lot of times and this is a theme that comes up in a lot of our conversations, Sean, is self-awareness, being able to pause when we notice that, right? Or it's helpful to have accountability around you. Sean and I call each other on stuff all the time. Like, hey, don't use that language. You know how powerful that your words are, right? And so instead of I can't afford it, how can I? I can't do that, right? Think about all the time, right? I used to ask my friends to go on vacations with me, go on trips with me, and they're like, oh, I can't because I got to do this. I can't afford it, right? And the better question is, how can I? Let your mind go to work on it, and you'll be surprised at the answers you get. But when it comes to actually having that moment of self-awareness to when that negative thought comes up, or when that limiting belief starts to manifest in your language or in the way you start acting, you have to polarize yourself. You have to break that pattern like we're talking about. If you study any NLP stuff or hypnosis, right? That's how they do it. They get you break the pattern, and it puts yourself in a trance. You're able to speak to your subconscious, right? So one way is having people call you on it. And two, another way is when you notice it, right? stop and ask yourself, okay, where did that thought come from? Why was that my initial reaction? And get to the root of it. Don't be lazy with it. Get to the root of it, right? Because it's probably something that you got taught when you were a kid that you just subconsciously absorbed and believed to be true, but never really questioned, right? And we should start operating by these subconscious programs without ever taking the time to clean that software.
I think the thing that I remember the first time that I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and he said that, like, how can I, instead of, why can't you, right? And I think what I've been doing lately, and I think it's something that you have to do over time. You have to actually see the proof of breaking the pattern by starting to ask that question: how can I? How can this be done? And what you'll find is that you'll break those barriers, you'll break those patterns, and you'll actually break that box that you're in, because you're in a box. When you're running those patterns, and when you have those patterns, you're literally just this person running those patterns, and you have no ability to go outside that box. But when you break that pattern by asking a new question or trying something new, like I heard about a guy that says, if you're going to break the patterns, let's do something outrageous, right? Like, go throw away all your shoes and go buy one new pair of shoes. Like, it's weird and it's strange. And it's like, why that? But it's a pattern break, right? Something that you would have never done before, but now you see, oh my God, I just did that. I made a move. I broke that pattern. And I think that's the first step. Like, hey, like, you wake up at 7 every day and you're not happy with your life. Try waking up at 5 and changing your morning routine. Anything that can break up your pattern. You're not going to be perfect, but once you do that, you start to see, oh, I can do these different things, and they have a different type of impact on my life. The pattern changes now, and I can use that pattern to get the things that I want out of life, aka freedom, right? And so that's the pattern that I'm developing in my life, thanks to Sean, is my pattern is freedom. That's my pattern now. Like, I'm creating that in my life. I'm aiming to disrupt and break any pattern that is consistently keeping me away from that freedom.
Yeah, absolutely. And it expands your perspective. And when your perspective gets bigger, your opportunities get bigger. And that's what you're saying, right? Like, when you stop thinking in this box and your context of life, of opportunities gets bigger, you start seeing them in more places, and life becomes exciting again, right?
Right.
So, I mean, practical examples. Like, I posted this thing on my Instagram the other day of Patrick Bet-David going into some guy's house and smashing his TV, right? TV, I mean, talk about one of the fast track paths to speed up your success. Throw away your TV, hands down. And so, but maybe you're not there yet, but breaking the pattern. Maybe every day when you get home from work, your first instinct is to grab the TV remote and pop it on, right? How you could practically break that pattern: hide your TV remote and have somebody else hide it, right? So then when you go to do it, you're like, fuck, where's the TV remote? And now your pattern's broken. Oh yeah, wait, I did that on purpose because I don't want to. Let me go grab a book instead, right? And that is just some practical examples of how those things manifest. We just get in these routines. I think it was John Wooden or John Dryden. I don't remember who it was. Don't quote me on that. But he said, we first make our habits and then our habits make us, right? Except for the problem is most of those habits we're doing it subconsciously. So
Not aware.
yeah, exactly. So if we break those patterns, right, start talking to our subconscious, right, start building new habits consciously, making an effort, right, to be aware. And that takes a lot of self-awareness. It takes questioning the thoughts that pop into your head. It takes questioning every action that you take, right, until you're able to, do it enough times to where it becomes a new habit for you and you start running a new software program.
I think of it like this too. A good pattern break too is asking yourself and going through the process of asking yourself and just seeing it and writing it out if you can. What's the worst that can happen, right? And whatever it is, it's an opportunity. If I wake up early, whatever it is, because what that does is it changes your perspective on, like, hey, you know what? If I do this, it's not going to be so bad if I fail, right? Because most of us are so scared to fail because of, I guess, our programming over life. We've been taught that failure is a bad thing, but failure is actually the thing that breaks the pattern. So once we fail, say I try to wake up at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning, I tried though. So then I broke the pattern, right? I tried, and then we have to keep going, right? So no matter what, even if you fail, it's the pattern breaking consistently over time that actually sets you free from the patterns.
Yeah, and like you said, one point when you're trying to break these patterns, be polarizing, do something extreme, right? I mean, think about the pattern. Someone taught me this about pattern breaking. Next time you go to put on your pants, try putting it on with the other leg that you normally do first, right? People put their right leg in first and their left leg, or whatever way you do it. But consciously think about it and try to mix it up, right? Or I think Tom Bilyeu talked about, or Jim Quick talked about, brushing your teeth with your left hand, just to keep things, fresh, and keep that awareness, that perspective of every action that you're doing. Don't fall into these lazy patterns, because those are low vibrating frequencies when you're just kind of coasting with the motions, right? If you break those patterns, do something polarizing, right? Talk to your subconscious, stand guard at the door of your thoughts, and observe it all. You're going to be surprised at what you're able to change in your life.
And then on the flip side, use the patterns to your advantage. Create the patterns that you want in your life, right? Like, I'm open-minded. Like, I say that to myself every morning. So that's my new pattern, right? Like, I'm open to different perspectives. That's my pattern, right? And, or I like to meditate every day, or I built that into my morning routine. So pick the things that you really want to keep in your pattern, and keep those things and establish those as a subconscious kind of like thing that you do every day. And then get rid of all the bad stuff, right? Pattern break all the bad stuff. So now your pattern is literally who you want to be. And then it's almost like on autopilot. You're going to become exactly who you want to be, because you're using this pattern to your advantage, and instead of letting it kind of like run you without you knowing it.
Yeah, super good points. And all that to say, hey, that's how you free yourself from the limits that you've placed on yourself unknowingly. You got to, I read a quote by Tony Robbins this morning: divorce the stories you've been telling yourself and start believing the truth, right? And so often we just go along with these stories that we've been subconsciously telling ourselves, and we wonder why we're getting the results that we are in our life. So you want to change the results in your life, you first have to change the way you think. In order to change the way you think, you have to be aware of the thoughts that you're having and why you're having them, and break them. Start implementing new habits. So those are my closing thoughts. Sean, anything else?
Yeah, break the pattern, and then tell yourself a new story about who you are, right? Tell yourself the new story. That's the new pattern.
Love it. Love it. Love it. All right, y'all. Well, hope you enjoyed. If you got any topics, questions, like, comment, subscribe, reach out to us, connect with us on Instagram, and here's to creating freedom.